What's up, y'all? It's Vano. Let me doing a quick Black Ops 7 beta review slash launch preview. That's because the fundamentals, the foundation of the game is going to carry over into launch. So even though I have a full launch review probably a week or maybe a few days after the game releases, the majority of the stuff I say in today's video will likely carry over to how I feel when the game fully releases. And whatever you disliked or liked in the beta, majority of that is going to carry over into launch, and that's all I can do when it comes to making a decision on buying a game, truly. But we're just going to talk about what we liked and disliked about the beta real quick, and of course, Matt Scrott's the dev talk they had, I believe, on the 21st of October. And this addressed majority of the concerns I had with the game, and the first one was some of the perk balance. Now, the biggest perk that was adjusted and looked into was dexterity. It's still going to have its fluidity when it comes to moving, bouncing off walls, sliding, sprint to fire, speed, and ADS. While doing those actions, it'll be a bit faster, it'll be a bit more responsive. But in the base game at launch, you will be able to ADS while jumping off a wall while sliding. And this is good due to the fact that, one, they want movement to be a central piece of the game, so you should allow players to use it more often without being penalized for not having a perk. And two, dexterity still has its strength and its use cases for being a more hypermobile, reactive player and being more aggressive when it comes to using the movement mechanics throughout the course of these maps. So I'm glad that that was adjusted, because I initially thought they were going to go with a tighter hipfire spread, more like the tag Santa had in previous games when using these mechanics, whether it's sliding or jumping off the wall. So I'm glad that at launch it was going to be able to ADS off the wall while sliding. I think that's good. They're looking into tweaking, slight reduction on the slide speed, which is fine for me, because a lot of players, a lot of the lower scale casual players, not the biggest fan of having all these movement text in the game, and it's a bit too much for them. I'm glad that's being adjusted. When it comes to the other perks, because they did some reshuffling of the deck, moving these perks around, and of course merging the perks, which I am really grateful for, because I felt like these perks were a bit redundant and weak. For example, with Close Shave and Bruiser, these are both melee oriented perks. Close Shave allows you, I believe, to have your melee equipped when you have your base primary. So if you go for a melee, you'd use your designated melee weapon, which is fine, and then Bruiser is the faster health regen. Both alright perks, but they need to be merged into one that really have an actual use for making a melee or knife oriented class. So I'm glad they did that. I'm going to look over the other perks being reslotted and merged real quick. We'll go with the perks that were moved around, because slot 1 was pretty strong. They moved Tech Mask to slot 2, they moved Scavenger to slot 2, Cold Blooded slot 3, Looper from slot 2 to slot 3, and Taxpayer from slot 3 to slot 1. And of course, the perks that they have combined and merged together: Shadow and Engineer, Vendetta and Assassin, Bruiser, Close Shave, Hunter's Instinct, Tracker, and Quartermaster and Gearhead. And we'll just go over these perks really quickly. Quartermaster and Gearhead, those are oriented around your field upgrades. Hunter's Instincts and Tracker, this is footsteps and intel from the enemy being merged into one. We already went over Bruiser and Close Shave. Vendetta and Assassin, this is about getting, Vendetta's for payback on the last player that killed you. You get to know the information on respawning, and Assassin for knocking players off of streaks, getting bonus score for it. And Shadow and Engineer revolve around equipment. Shadow, with Shadow you wouldn't trigger the equipment by running past, and Engineer you could see the equipment through the walls. Glad they merged these perks together. It just made the most sense gameplay wise, and it gives more defined play styles you could use. Another thing that they looked into in this dev talk was the footsteps. They were really quiet. I did not recall hearing them at all in the beta. Well, maybe a few times in it, but they were really quiet. So I'm glad they're going to be getting tweaked a little bit. I don't want them as loud as Infinity Ward titles, Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 2019. I don't want them that loud, but they can at least have some presence in the game for some awareness. I think that would be a fine trade-off. And the last one, the big one, was they were adjusting the aim assist, rotational aim assist, and some other things regarding the aim assist strength across all the ranges. Looking forward to this because I felt like the aim assist was a bit ridiculous. It was a lot of players. They would get in these gunfights. They would probably miss that first couple shots and they just instantly snap on. And like, I'm on a PS5, and it's not that players can't make these adjustments, but like the instant snap-ons all the time, and the fact that you would check these players' stats, and they would like be doing not so well in the game. Like they're 7 and 13, but they instantly snap on for this one kill. Not saying it's sketchy as in they're cheating, but like that's sketchy when it comes to that skill expression throughout the entire match, and how it hasn't been the most consistent, but they're very snappy, very responsive on this particular kill. Not the biggest fan of the aim assist in the beta, but it's getting tweaked. When it comes to the maps are on the smaller, medium size, and they were fine. They weren't as chaotic as Black Ops 6 maps, so I'm glad that it isn't just a bunch of different variations or re-renditions of Nuketown, but like just in shittier fonts and not as good gameplay wise. I'm glad that they are looking to have some more medium small maps, or just aren't as chaotic. I know the majority of the player base likes the smaller medium sized maps, and I do too. I would just like some decent variety when it comes to design philosophies of these maps, and just not completely going in one direction. Because I mentioned this like several years ago with Modern Warfare 2019, that the map design variety is just the same, whether it's a bunch of big convoluted maps or the small simple 3-lane maps. Just need good variety and I'll be a happy camper. And when it comes to the beta maps, my favorite, I would have to say it was Exposure. I like the lighting, I like the way the map flowed and it played well. The spawns in the beta were not good, and they are simply a byproduct of the new engine from Modern Warfare 2019. Ever since they implemented the new engine, the spawn logic they've had along with these games have been terrible, and it takes them several months to get them right. Hopefully, they can be done right around Season 1 or the end of Season 2 at the latest. But it takes them several months to get the spawns right, and it's just due to the new engine and the spawn logic that came with it. It makes map control like irrelevant at times. It doesn't help the fact you have an uber fast movement speed in general, then you have smaller maps, and then you have a very flippant and chaotic spawn system from the new engine. It's just frustrating, but hopefully the spawns can get cleaned up a little bit at launch. We'll have to see. Last thing to touch on will have to be like latency and weapon balance. Granted, I can't say much for weapon balance. I got the inclination that the ARs were a bit stronger than the submachine guns. Like that's what I was feeling, and I didn't feel like anything was too crazy or too insane. Like maybe besides the M8 and the mod, I feel like those were a bit too much, but nothing completely game breaking. It's just when you got some players just locking down lanes with the M8, there's just not much you can do besides match with your own M8 or try to get a flank or use a grenade to get them out that spot. But nothing too ridiculous, so I felt like that was in a good shape. Granted, we need to see all the weapons to get a fuller picture. And the latency. Latency was actually pretty good in the beta for me. Now granted, it's going to get worse at launch because of the higher capacity, more people on the servers. There's just latency, hit detection, desync, all that jazz isn't nowhere near as good as launch. Now it does stabilize a lot quicker than your spawns, which takes several months compared to launch being a couple of weeks, a few days. So, not looking forward to that. I know it's going to be pretty frustrating with some of these engagements when you shoot first and you die first because of the desync and lights just not being the best in the packet first. Not looking forward to that. But other than that, I felt it was pretty good. Actually, the last thing we will touch on is the camo progression, the weapon grind. Hopefully it's not too much and too tedious, where folks just feel like they have to play the smallest map playlist, because I don't think they're healthy for the game. Nuketown 24/7, Shipment 24/7, Stakeout 24/7. I don't think the absolute smallest maps all the time are healthy for the multiplayer. I want people to actually engage and play the other multiplayer maps and not just play the meat grinder experience that are just catered towards grinding and leveling up progression or getting camo challenges. Hopefully with the matchmaking being a bit more open and not having as much skill-based matchmaking in it, it's a lot easier for you to do these camo grinds and don't feel the need to just do it in the smallest maps all the time. I also want the developers to not have these 24/7 playlists with maps like Stakeout or Nuketown. I don't want that in the game for the entirety of the year. You know, spread it out a bit more and just have, you know, some smaller map mosh pits for those camo grinders, but not 24/7 with one map. That's not good for multiplayer experience. It's just people treating the game like a glorified feeder or funnel for Warzone, or just ignoring everything else and just grinding camos all the time and like not actually engaging with the multiplayer. I hope people want to engage with the multiplayer, but we'll have to see. I know how the community is with small maps. They thought Shoot House was a good map in Model 2019. Granted, it's only considered quote unquote good because it was the smallest map in the game at the time. That wasn't Shipment. So hopefully people actually engage with the multiplayer. That's all I got. With that out the way, ladies and gentlemen, y'all stay safe. I'm out.